Hey guys, today's topic is getting paid on a mail-away closing. As we've talked about several times before, mail-aways are very prevalent right now. So let's talk about getting you paid on a mail-away closing. So on a mail-away closing, the lawyer cannot disperse the funds until the original deed is received back to the lawyer by the lawyer. Or if it's a buyer mail-away, until the attorney gets the original loan documents back. Now that's kind of the general rules. Now, why is that? If the seller signs the deed but never delivers it, we don't have an effective deed. You have to have signed and delivered. So if the seller simply emails a copy of the deed back to the attorney but never mails the original, there's no delivery and we have an ineffective closing. So if the lawyer has dispersed on that and the seller doesn't record or doesn't send the deed back, the seller could claim we don't have an effective closing, and the lawyer would have a big mess on his hand because he's giving real estate agents and people money. That would be a big issue. On the buyer side, if the buyer doesn't send back the loan documents, you could have an equally big mess because we need to have the original mortgage to record to secure that security interest that the lender has. So if the lawyer disperses the funds and the documents never come back, the mortgage is not valid, and now the lender's got a mess on their hand because they have loaned money on a property which they don't have an effective security interest in it. So that's the general rule. On a cash transaction, remember, as we've talked on other videos, we don't have to have but the original deed back from the seller, so we can arrange that document to come back early. Seller side that's the only document you need. On the buyer side, you don't need original documents because nothing's being recorded. So that's a very easy closing on a mail-away. On a lender-involved closing that's a mail-away, it's a little bit different. We got to have the seller sign the documents. You can't have the buyer sign the loan documents prior to the seller because the buyer can't mortgage what they don't own. So the seller has to sign the same day or earlier, and then the buyer would have to send the loan documents back, because as I said earlier, if we don't get the loan documents back, you could have a big mess on your hands if you disperse money in attorney fees or real estate agent fees or whatnot. You could have a mess on your hand if you've given those fees out and the lender recalls the loan because the security interest isn't valid. So that's the reasoning behind it. Now, one thing I want everybody to remember is this could affect other closings you have. So if we're closing today on a mail-away for someone out of town, we can't disperse today until I get those original deeds and the original mortgage back. That means no disbursement to your seller, which means your seller can't leave the closing and then become a buyer on another transaction because he won't have the funds in his hands until those documents are received back so we can fund it. So if you have closing stacked where your seller's becoming a buyer and then the buyer's becoming a seller or whatnot down the line, that's going to affect your ability to keep those closings in effect down the line. You're going to have to put some space between them, a day or two, on a mail-away closing to make sure those documents come back and the lawyer can disperse the loan so that you can do the next closing down the line. Got any questions, give me a call on that. Now, a lot of you have told me that y'all are forwarding my legal tips to other agents. I absolutely love that. Please feel free to do that. If you have friends that want to sign up for legal tips, just email me or have them email me at the address below and I'll add them, or they can go to blaircato.com and we also can add them that way. So the more people we get these messages out to, hopefully the better it helps everybody in closing. So thanks a lot for spreading the word, and I look forward to seeing you at the next closing.